All right, everybody, this is the Genesis study. We're still on Genesis chapter 1. I'm a little excited, but also I wanted to just clarify a little bit. We were getting into a discussion about the day and things like that. And I do want to allow people to express that, but I do want to kind of pull from these verses and see what we see rather than that particular topic being emphasized. But I do want to set a time where we go over that topic. So if anybody wants to kind of express with one word, one verse, some of the ideas that we mentioned. We read Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 to 12. And we were discussing a little bit about the day, when the day starts according to scripture. And then there was also something mentioned by Mecca, which I think was pretty good, where he read about the herb yielding seed in verse 11, where it says, Elohim said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so. And he connected it to us being a tree, which we talked about that this morning, about us being in the branch and bearing fruit, and us being a tree, the Father's tree, and we're bearing seed after his kind, So I think that was an excellent correlation with bringing the creation to a personal outlook. But I want to kind of open it up before we move forward. We got to verse 12, so I'm going to open it up to see if anybody has anything to say, especially concerning anything we talked about last week, before we read the following verses. So I'm going to give everybody an opportunity to raise their hand. Anybody want to say anything about anything last week, or we move forward? Any verses, cross-references? What did we talk about? We talked about the firmament, the dry land, the seed-bearing, the dark and the light. Anything? Okay. All right. And if I don't see it, please try to help me, because sometimes my screen freezes. But Rick, you said you wanted to say something, or you pointing to someone else? You should be able to unmute you.
Yeah, I was just looking at some of these cross references, and there was one here that we were discussing about the night, or the darkness and the light. And there's one I was just looking at here. If I can go back to where it was, I just moved from it. Where did it lose it? He actually says that he created the darkness.
Right.
Where is that?
Is that in Isaiah?
I lost it. I'm trying to find it.
Let me see if I can.
Yes, that's it. Isaiah 4, verses 5 and 7.
Yeah. He
says, I formed the light and I created darkness. So the darkness was created. It wasn't necessary. So does that mean that it wasn't already dark? That he actually created the darkness?
I mean, it would have.
And he formed the light? Because my thought originally was that it was like dark.
Right.
And then he created
somebody
light.
Has to create the dark. Somebody has to create something or for the possibility of that reality of darkness. Like, it's not just, it can't exist the same way the Father exists. You see what I'm saying? The Father has to be beyond anything.
The absence of light, I would think, would be darkness, so it would be there without the light, that it would already exist without the light. That was my thoughts originally when I was thinking about this. It's like the darkness just existed. It was already there because there was no light to divide it. Then when he created the light, he divided the two, is what I was thinking. But this verse makes me think of it in a different way now, that he actually created the darkness for a reason.
There's a scripture in Isaiah that says darkness is like light to him. When Isaiah speak about that, darkness is like light to Yahuah.
Could I say something?
What scripture is that? It says that.
I think there's a few. There's one in Isaiah 58 that says even the darkness will be like Psalms chapter 139. I think verse 10. It says, "Then even in the darkness shall be as the noonday." Let me see.
Can I point something out too?
You're interrupting, Mike. No. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, even with that verse that you guys are talking about in Isaiah, if you notice, I think it's another scenario where it's like Yahushua says, "Think not that I've come to do away with the law, for I've not come to do away with, but to fulfill." Fulfill can't mean do away with. He uses two different words there. He didn't say I create light and darkness. He said I create light and what form darkness. So the context there alone, he didn't use the same word. He didn't say I created light and darkness. So he said he created light and formed darkness. So there's got to be a difference between him creating the light and then forming darkness. So I think that's what we should be looking into. What that difference is. Why he didn't say why he didn't say he created darkness like he created light, but instead formed.
Right. Go ahead, Rod.
Yeah, Mike is definitely on to what I was going to say, because he says he divided the light from the darkness. So the darkness was what was left when he divided the light from it. So it wasn't like he created darkness. He just removed the light and it was dark. So it's not a creation of darkness. It's a removal of the light, dividing it from it. And what you have left is without light. That's dark.
Do we have that verse in the Hebrew context? Because that's not what it says. It says that he actually formed light and he created darkness in the version that I'm looking at here.
Like darkness, he referring to causing. He causes, because the other part of that verse, doesn't it say he created evil?
Right. It's in mine. It says divided the light from the darkness.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to look at that in the original and see what it says. That might be helpful, because it looks like we got a couple different translations here.
Well, let's look at this. In the beginning of Genesis, right? This is what we came to the conclusion last week. I'm sorry. Let me let Couture. Go ahead, Couture.
If we're looking at Isaiah 45 verse 7, the word form and create is different. So form, when he says I form the light, that word is to form, fashion, frame, mold, potter. And then the word that's used for darkness, create, it says to create, to shape, to choose. So there's a difference in the words that's used for light and darkness. I think that would help clarify.
Yeah, in the Hebrew, that word divide is the word badal, and it means to separate, to divide, to dismiss, to exclude. So he's pulling the light, he's excluding the light, he's dismissing the light, and what you have left is darkness. From the word I have here, badal in the Hebrew. To surely separate, to set apart, it says. So he set apart the light, and what you had left was darkness.
So could we say that there was? Here's a crazy thought in my head, right? So in verse 3 of Genesis, I guess we're gonna retract a little bit. So verse 3 in Genesis, it says, "Let there be light," and there was light. And Elohim saw that the light was good. And then it says, and Elohim then divided the light from the darkness. So what when he first said, "Let there," I don't want to get too philosophical and think. I don't want to. This is just where my mind is going right now with the words. So was there a necessity for him to divide it? was it not dividing before he divided it? Or are we saying that there's just like this natural division? Because it says that he then, after he made light, then he divided it, and then he gave names. You see what I'm saying? And last week we even went to Proverbs 8, and we talked about the begotten of the Son coming forth before anything was created, even before the deep was created. But we see in verse 2 that there was an earth without form. Somebody had to create that. And there was darkness on the deep. You know, somebody had to create that situation. You know what I mean? So to me, I'm like, I don't think anything could exist unless he thinks it to be or speaks it to be. You know, because think about it, without anything being created, now we're going real far back. Without anything being created and it's just him, like, is there darkness there? You know, wherever he's not? I don't know. He would have to create the idea of darkness for us.
He'd have to, because he's light. So if he's omnipresent, that means there would be light everywhere, right?
That's what I'm thinking.
So maybe that's where he had to create the darkness, because without that there would be no dark, there would be no night
or distinction.
Right.
So we have Nate had his hand up, and then we have Mike. Go ahead, Nate.
I'm just thinking about maybe that is like a precedent, because, you know, he calls us out of darkness into the light. He tells us to be separate, you know, and come out from among them. So even though yes, he created it, he wants to show that, you know, there has to be a calling out and a separation, because, you know, to come into the light. That's just what my thought was. It's just that I think he purposely called light out of darkness just so that he can show there's a separation. There's always going to be a separation between light and darkness, and that we should dwell in the light, because he, as you guys were saying, he is the light. So, you know, we, his children, who he's created, we have to come out of that darkness and come into the light where, you know, everything happens.
Is that a different kind of context, though, when he's talking come out of the light into the out of the darkness into the light? Is that a different kind of darkness than what we're talking about?
It would.
Well,
spiritual.
Yeah.
Spiritual. Because even if
form a metaphor. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a spiritual aspect. I mean, even if you look at the spiritual aspect, blindness is a part of darkness spiritually. Like, if you're spiritually in darkness, it means that you're spiritually blind. But we do see that Yah blinds people as well. He gives strong delusions. He gives people over to a reprobate mind. I know. Well, that's a different instance where he allows you to continue to do what you want. But there's also verses where it says that he purposely blinds in order to manifest his esteem or glory. So he does have a way of. And then there's another verse where it says that he causes evil to occur, meaning destruction. So we know that he's not about destruction. We know that he has the power to destroy. But we know he's not about darkness, but we know he has the power to blind. So it's kind of like, now we're going back to creation. We know that he's light, and he said, let there be light. But I don't think that even time is not like a tangible thing. But it can't exist unless he says, you know, begin. You know what I mean? So I think the same for darkness. Like, the idea of darkness, I don't think can exist. Scientifically, dealing with matter and light and things like that, yeah, we can say the absence of light is darkness, but the idea or the concept of darkness had to originate from Yah. Yah had to create that idea. And perhaps for a purpose. I mean, we definitely do see a purpose, because he uses it for spiritual context for us now. You know what I mean?
Well, he also made a covenant, you know, with the light and the dark, so that they arrive at their appointed times for those purposes. So we even see covenant in that.
All right, so I'm going to go to, I think, Mike and then JP. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I want a little feedback on this because to me this conversation has changed my perspective because I didn't see Yahuah creating light, but going back to the beginning, like Jadel just read, the way I can kind of picture it in my mind is like say Yahuah created the color gray in the beginning, and then he took white out of the gray and fashioned it to his liking, and taking the white and then taking the white out, he left white and black. So in a sense, he created both together, but that's how he would have divided them. And then because if you see it says that the Torah is to show our sins so that our sins may be exceedingly sinful. Well, Gabriel, so if he made that, I'm just using the analogy, the color gray. Hold on. Okay, go ahead. If he made the color gray, being light and dark, good and bad, whatever, they were together. But then when he separates it, he separates the white out of the black to then that white can really shine on the black to show that it's the exceedingly. You get what I'm saying? He says that the Torah shows our sins so that they may be exceedingly sinful. So if he separated the light from the darkness, he took the light out of that mixture to really shine on the opposite side to show exceedingly how dark it is. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I can grasp what you're saying. So he set up the idea of dark and light. I don't want to say good and bad because I don't think I am personally one who don't believe that he created bad.
Well, I can explain that too because like I said, I don't either, because we know if we go to what Yahuah's definition of what evil is, it's anything that's against his will, against his Torah. That's what evil is. So again, he created everything, and then when he created it, he made his will. So whatever wasn't in his will, he took out as light. I'm sorry, whatever was his will, he took out, which was the light, and left behind the black, which would be not his will. So in a sense, he created the option for it to be there, but he didn't create dark. He created everything, and then like he says, divided it, leaving behind what is dark.
Okay, the concept you mean. So okay, so
yeah.
I'm gonna mute you real quick. So the concept, I kind of agree with what he's saying. The concept of darkness, like darkness, he created this situation where light and dark, then he separated light and dark, and then he placed a concept or an idea on darkness, saying the darkness means is this, light is this, and then connected it to good and bad. Is that what you're referring to, Mike? Let me just.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. And I see that because because he also taught Adam, he said not to eat from the tree. Sorry, Kev. Go ahead, Kev. Go ahead.
All right. No, that's okay. I mean, it's all good because that means we're one. You know what I'm saying? Now, it's a good example. In the sense of the Garden of Eden. How Yahuah gave man, Adam and Eve, a choice. The tree was put there to choose good and evil. So, but at the same time, it's not that he wanted Adam and Eve to make that decision, but it was there as an option if you go against the Torah. So it's there, even though he created evil, it was not for us. It was there because if we go against the Torah.
Right. So because there's good and there's freedom of choice, there's automatically the ideal concept of disobedience and evil. So in turn, we would give that esteem to Yah. We would put it in his hands. So yeah, I think that's it's pretty good. Pretty good to dissect these things. There's many years where I've read Genesis and I've never even took a second thought to try to picture creation in my mind. And then whenever I would picture it, it would be usually from other people rather than us taking a look at the scriptures and dissecting it. I think this is a good thing. Dom and then Keturah.
what I'm trying to understand is, right, if God is, he's omnipresent, he knows everything, right? I see y'all trying to dissect, like, the darkness and light and all that stuff, but he created everything. So wouldn't that make him good and evil? I know we're not supposed to think like that, but I'm just trying to understand,
I
like,
think it's a,
wouldn't that make him good and evil? Because he knows everything. He knows the actions, that evil people will carry out before they even know it. You know what I'm saying? Like, he created Lucifer, so, and he created the tree of, the tree of life. So what does that make him?
that's a valid question. When you're searching, that's a valid question. Don't think that certain questions shouldn't be asked. We ask those questions in order to receive the answer. Let me see if Mike want to answer you. Mike, you want to answer that or not?
Yeah. So as I'm glad he asked that, because I think it just finished putting everything into perspective for me. We know that he created everybody, and even the angels, with free will. So just real quick to touch on Lucifer, he didn't create Lucifer evil. Lucifer defiled himself with his pride. Yahuah made him as a glorious angel, and he was good until he allowed his own desires, his own will, to cloud, his light and become dark. So with that, this is, tell me what y'all think about this. We know again that it says that our hearts are exceedingly wicked. Our desires are wicked. Our own desires are wicked. This is why he gives us his desires. We know that he created everything with choice. And again, going back to Isaiah, when it talks about him creating evil and then expounding on what evil is, which is anything that's not his will is evil. So Yah's will, which is, his Torah, is light.
That's many.
So in a sense, our will or anybody else's will that's not his will is dark. It's not his will, so therefore it's dark. So could it be when it says that he created darkness or he created evil, that he's actually talking about giving us free choice? Because if we choose our will, it is evil according to Torah and even the New Testament, but his will is the Torah, which is light. So could that be what he's saying? Because he created us with choice. So in the beginning, even the angels, he created everything with a choice. So again, his choice, his will is light. Everybody else's will that is not his will is automatically evil, because that's Yahuwah's definition of evil, things that are not his will. So could that answer it?
Possibly. It's just that there's a few verses that kind of give a different idea. I want to elaborate on a. I'm gonna let Rick speak, but after Rick and Emeka, I want to. After Keturah, Keturah wanted to speak, and then Rick, and then Emeka. I wanted to elaborate on the idea of the creation of evil, because I think even that verse is taken out of context and is actually talking very specifically about something specific that he does, in regards to what evil is translated from. So go ahead, Keturah, and then Rick, and then Emeka. Oh, wait, hold on.
I just wanted to give Rick that verse he asked about, the one that Kefa was referencing, about the night being as a darkness to him. That's Psalms 139:12. It says, even darkness is not dark for you, but night shines as the day. As is darkness, so is light. That was Psalms 139:12.
It says to you, to Yah. So even though there's darkness, what does that mean? He has to put a concept to it in order for us to place it on evil. You see what I'm saying? But to Yah, the idea, he had to create the idea of darkness being something bad. You see what I'm saying? So just because it was there doesn't mean it was bad. It was only bad because he said this is what's going to be an example of what is bad. But let me let Rick go ahead. Go ahead, Rick.
Kind of going down the same lines what you're saying is with the darkness, I think, is that he created a concept of darkness to contrast the light. Same way with the sin, or evil, if you will. The concept is he says, this is my will, this is my commandments, these are my statutes, and anything contrary to those that go against those are going to put you in that place of being evil or sinful. Same way with, well, I don't believe his name is Lucifer. I think that was an injected name, a Latin name that was put in there. But his actual, he's referring to Hasatan here. Before he was made perfect, Scripture says, in the beginning. He didn't have any sin in him, but it was when he decided to allow himself to desire to be exalted, and that he wanted to be something more, and he chose the sin at that point. That's when the sin entered into him. The same way with us, and he went against Yahuah's will, which automatically put him at odds with Yahuah's will, which I believe that's where the contrast comes in, is that free will, as Mike was saying, that goes with that takes us back to the tree of good and evil, basically. So when we have that knowledge of it, we make choices now to go against what he has established as righteous. So if we go against that automatically puts us on the other side. The same way with light is divided by the dark, or the darkness is divided by the light. There's a contrast here that we can see, and I believe that it still has to do with covenant, even, because he says he made the covenant with the light and the darkness. Well, he still has a covenant with the sin and evil too, because if you sin, that covenant means you're going to be set apart from him, and you're going to have judgment. Well, if you obey him and you walk in the righteousness of him, you're walking under his covenant that he's established. Now we have the eternal life. So, there's a contrast that he gives. But did he actually create it? I think the concept he created to be able to give choice, that's, I guess I'm trying to say it with the words that I'm thinking of, and it's all over, but I'm trying to formulate it. But I'll stop right there and let you go ahead, Gadiel.
All right, I'm gonna let Emeka go, and then I want to point out a verse to see if we could all kind of clarify it together. Go ahead, Emeka.
Yeah, so I wanted to point out first in Job 28:28, we get a definition of understanding. So it says, "Unto man he said, Behold, the fear of Adonai, that is wisdom, and to depart from evil is understanding." So here we see that departing from evil is understanding. And I want to connect that to Psalms 147, and starting at verse 2, it says, "Yahuah builds up Jerusalem; he gathers together the outcast of Yasharah. He heals the broken in heart and binds up their wounds. He tells the number of the stars; he calls them by their names. Great is our Adonai, and of great power. His understanding is infinite." So if we connect that with Job 28:28, and it says understanding is to depart from evil is understanding, and here it says his understanding is infinite, that means his ability to depart from evil is infinite. So Yah could never be evil himself, but kind of like what Mike said, with free will, that is where, if we go against his will and what he wants for us, that's where we become evil.
Right.
And I believe there's a passage that talks about in John chapter.
Hold on one second.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
No, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. You made a point very clear. But we want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to go. So we're gonna listen to cross-reference. You got two. But but it was good. The point was good. Like, this, to depart from him is to depart from his immortality, his infinite wisdom, so that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Let me let Marshall go, and then we're gonna attack this verse that I believe kind of can correlate with what we're talking about with good and evil. Go ahead, Marshall.
Thank you, thank you. Just what Emeka just said was just amazing. How with the understanding, when you depart from evil, that's understanding, and from the beginning, the Father had made that balance of the light and the darkness, and even how He had called night darkness, but yet again, the night belongs to Him. He made it. But then he chose. He told us to choose between the good and the evil, and the understanding or His image or the holiness of it is to choose good and to walk in the goodness. There's a part even in the book of Genesis where it talks about sin lies at the door. So sin is outside, and you have to stay in Him who is light, and in Him there's no darkness for you to be apart from sin. And then also another verse that says in the book of Isaiah 45, when He was talking to Cyrus, He said, I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, Yahuah, do all these things. So he's literally like giving the credit go to Him. He's the one who makes the light. He's the one who makes the darkness. He's the one who makes the peace. He's the one who creates evil. And but he per se definitely and indefinitely is good and perfect in all of His ways, and that's why He saves us from darkness, and He's teaching us how not to be in the darkness, or how not to walk in evil, but rather choose good, with the understanding, with His understanding.
Right, and that's where I wanted to go. You got the background music going on?
I think it's somebody playing.
Tell Mike stop. But Isaiah 45 verse 7 is exactly where I wanted to go. Because when it talks about evil, it's not talking about wickedness here. It's giving you a contrast. Where it says, Isaiah chapter 45 verse 7, it says, I form light and create darkness. Because of those two different words, I believe that He's referring to causing darkness. But then He says, I make peace. And then He gives a contrast to peace and says, and then I create evil. So wickedness is not a contrast to peace. Wickedness would be a contrast of righteousness or good, bad and good, or evil and good in that sense. But here, peace and evil, this particularly evil is referring to calamity. He's talking about destruction. Whenever Israel was in trouble and they were trying to return from their sin, they said, don't you know that because of this sin has brought all this evil upon us, referring to the destruction and the basically the discipline that Yah would give them. He referred to it as bringing this evil upon you. But He wasn't talking about bringing the wickedness upon them, because it was because of their wickedness that He brought all this evil upon them, or destruction upon them. So in this sense, Isaiah 45 verse 7, when it says peace and He created evil, He's talking about destruction, because destruction is the contrast of peace. So He's not talking about wickedness there. But what you said, Marshall, was absolutely. He created the idea of a contrast. So that way, if you abide in Him, you abide in the light, and you are automatically set apart from the darkness. But if you walk away, like Emeka said, if you move away from Him and move away from His Torah, you automatically abide in darkness.
Another word there too, Jadiel, is other than just calamity, is adversity. So He's creating adversity in that as well.
Right.
So which doesn't necessarily make it evil, you know.
Exactly, because he becomes like an adversary against the wicked. Like he goes against the wickedness that is done. He says, vengeance is mine, saith Yah. So He goes against that wickedness, and it's referred to in the English translation as evil, because He's referring to the destruction that it brings when He goes against it. But it's not necessarily, or when He brings adversity or becomes an adversary against that evil. But it's not necessarily talking about wickedness or being bad or bad character, that He created a bad character. That's not what it's referring to. I'm gonna let Dom go, and then we're gonna see if we can read some more verses in Genesis. Go ahead, Dom. Let me unmute you.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to unmute me. Yeah, man, I'm just I'm listening to what you guys saying, and I'm just, you know, I never even thought about this. I never even thought about that before till y'all brought it up. You know, about him creating the darkness. But I always had the question, why even go through all of this? You know what I mean? Like, why? I've always asked that question. You know, like why we had to go through all of this? You know, he could have. You know, he's God. You know, like he doesn't have to. He didn't have to. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I'm making sense right now. You know what I mean?
No, I get you. And you're here at the right time because we're about to go through.
Right. Why not just make everything? You know, why even put that tree there for Adam and Eve to fail? You know what I mean? If you knew, you know everything. You know what I'm saying?
No, I get what you're saying. Am I freezing up?
A little bit, but I can still hear what you. I can still hear you talk fine. It's just like why even have it that way to where we can choose? That would mean that he would have to know something too, right? I mean, he would have to have some kind of like. So I don't know. I don't want to say that. You know what I'm saying? But that's what I'm thinking. You know.
The good thing is to be honest with your questions, and we have like 5 people that want to answer your questions.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry, man.
No. It's good. It's good. It's good.
No need to apologize, brother.
Yeah. The questions is what's leading us to dive deeper in order to answer these questions. That's not a question that you have. I had that question. I'm pretty sure more than one of us has had that question here. So we have a few people. I saw Rick raise his hand first. Then I saw Mecca and Zir rise up and Mike. So all right. So sit back and and hear what these guys got to say.
My thought on this, to try to give you the answer that I understand it to be, is Yahuah knows all, and he could have made it that way. But if he did it that way, then it would just be like robots. You know, you do as I say, and we don't have any control. He's not going to get somebody that truly loves him. So he allowed that. I believe that Mom just asked the same question here about Hasatan. Why did he allow Hasatan? Did he know Hasatan was going to sin, first of all? I believe, he knew. And that allowed that adversity to come in that we were just talking about. So if you have adversity, you have choice, right? He give us the free will to choose, are we going to live for him or are we not? He wants people that are going to live for him because they love him, because they choose to go against the things of the flesh. This is a battle that we have to fight to live in a way that honors him, that shows that we love him. Yeah. And that's what he says, as we heard the scriptures today in our lesson. If you love me, you will obey. So there's a lot of people in the world that say, no, I'm going to do what I want to do. I only got a little bit of life. I'm going to do it in the fullest of my, But those that really, truly love him are the ones that are set apart. Those are the chosen ones. And if we didn't have that choice, he wouldn't have people that are doing it out of love for him by choosing to do that themselves. And that's basically a short answer what I'll give you. I'll let some of the others expound upon it. But that's what I want you to think about. You got a choice to choose. You already walked in the world's way, contrary to him, and you see what fruits that produce. Now you get a chance to walk the other side and see the benefits of walking with him. And now you're going to see his love. And that's what this is all about. So I'll surrender and let everybody else have some more to say.
Praise God. There's more. I'm going to answer last. Mike, go ahead, and then Mecca.
Yeah, I think that. Hold on. Is it better? Yeah. Okay. All right. The biggest thing to remember, bro, is free willingness, because just because somebody knows something doesn't mean they. Here, can you turn yours off real quick? Or just take it over there. Just because somebody knows, Yahuah knows that we were gonna choose something doesn't mean that like he made us choose it. So it's not like he created evil and made people choose evil or allowed them to choose. Like he, just because he knows something doesn't mean he caused it to happen. So that's the first thing. Second thing is the free will aspect. Like he created everybody with free will. So just because there is darkness, and whether he created the darkness or not, he didn't create people in darkness. He actually created man in his image, right? And man chose darkness, same as Hasatan. He created him as an angel, and he chose darkness. That doesn't mean Yah created them for that. He created everybody for good, but people choose the wrong thing. So I think the biggest, because I know I personally had that question too. Well, why he create me if he knew I was going to be evil, or if I was going to do bad things or make bad decisions? He didn't create me for that purpose. He created everybody with good in his mind. Everything, as Scripture says, everything that he creates is good. Even he said it. But again, he also gave us free will. And with that will, we get to choose to do what is good or what is not good. Whether he knows if we're going to do it or not, that doesn't mean that he made us do it. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, that's accurate. I think I share the same sentiments. Let me let Emeka speak, and then I'm gonna say something along those lines. Go ahead, Emeka.
Yeah, I wanted to bring out a verse out of Deuteronomy chapter 30, starting at verse 19. It says, I call the heavens and the earth to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore, choose life, that both you and your seed may live, that you may love Yahuah Eloheka, and that you may obey his voice, and that you may cleave unto him, for he is your life and the strength of your days, that you may dwell in the land which Yahuah swore unto your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and Jacob, to give them. So overall, he's given us a choice.
He's given us a choice.
He wants us to choose him. So we have to, want to choose him overall. It's just a choice we make to show him that we are dedicated to him, how much we love him, which is why we're told in the scripture not to be in love with the things of the world, to really love God first and seek the kingdom of heaven first, and then all else will be added on to us. So, he gives us that choice, and it's up to us to choose him.
Praise Yah. Mecca. That's a good verse. That is a good verse. Choose life. One of the things I wanted to, that verse was excellent. But what Mike was saying, he's all knowing. So he sees all the possibilities of your choices. There's not one choice that's going to catch him by surprise. It's not that he's making you choose one thing. He sees all the possibilities. He sees the direction all of those possibilities end up in. You see, but he's steering you. He's steering you because he's not going to touch your free will. That's something that he will not go against. The free will that he has, he's put inside man, and he's causing us to exercise that free will. So when we say that he knew, it's not that he set it up, like what Mike said, set it up for the enemy to fall. He set it up for everyone to prosper. But the choice, he's not going to tamper with, because he wants to see who wants him as much as he wants them, who's loyal to him. He calls us to love him with all of our heart, our mind, our soul, our strength. That's an obsessive mindset. We need to be consumed with him, just like he's consumed with us, sending his son to die for us. You see what I'm saying? So the idea of omniscience is that he knows every possibility that exists. So it doesn't matter what you did, he knows it. But he tells you, choose this way, because he already knows all the possibilities. You see what I'm saying? So it's let me see. There's a lot of hands. I may have to pass this. That's yours. This directing to one of the.
Dominique was first.
Dominique, you let Dom, then Melissa, then Mike. Go ahead, Dom.
I'm sorry, I keep going back to this thing, right? I feel like Hasatan is working in me right now. Listen, right? So he sent Yahshua back to bring us back to God, right? Now, when we get resurrected and we get to go back home to be with Yahuah, because we lived in this life, we know good and evil. We would know good and evil just like Yahuah.
Right.
So wouldn't that answer the question that he does know good and evil?
Well, he does know good and evil. He doesn't have to experience it or entertain it in order to know it. You see what I'm saying? Like, sin is a concept that he also created, a concept, the idea, the reality of it, but it's still opposite from him. So he knows it because he understands the concept in its deepest form. We know it because we are in it and we experience it, and now we're leaving this, so we understand the ins and outs of it because we were in it. That's the difference. He doesn't have to be in it to know the ins and outs of it. We know it because we're in it now, and we're trying to come out. Do you get that?
Yeah. I feel like I'm thinking like way too far ahead, because I'm like,
right, we're getting there.
like,
we're in Genesis. You're gonna see the fall and everything, man. Stay tuned. Oh, I'm gonna come after you. You already know I'm gonna come after you anyway, man.
Because I'm just like, yo, when everybody becomes kings, we're gonna be gods just like him.
Well,
so
we'll talk about that in a little bit later.
All right.
Let me let Melissa go, and then Mike go, and then we're gonna. Did we even read? We're gonna go back to the verses. Rod, it's like, come on. All right, Melissa.
So from what I gather, you guys are talking about, like, how did Hasatan fall, if the father knew what was going on, what the whole plan was, and why do certain things still kind of play out. I don't know, many years ago, I had asked the father, like, why did I end up making all these choices that I did in my life that were not great choices? And I was feeling really condemned about a lot of the decisions that I had made up until that point. And I felt like I had failed in what he called me to do, or like I'd messed up his plan somehow for my life. And so what he spoke to my heart was that you are still the key that I fashioned you to be, that I created you to be, but you chose how to be formed. And I thought that was really fascinating. And when he spoke that to me, it just eliminated and removed all the guilt and all the condemnation. And it was very much that, go and sin no more type of, it was just awesome. And I spoke about this a little bit last night. Like, I had just been asking the Father, why did Hasatan, who knew all your goodness, knew all your mercy, was in your presence, was so close to you and had such an amazing relationship to you, why did he choose this other way? Why did he fall? Why and how did pride enter in? And what the Father just spoke to me was that Hasatan lost sight of where he ended and where the Father began. And so it's like Hasatan got so close to the Father that he started to then think he was the Father. he was having, wrong boundaries. And just now, like listening to you guys talk, if pride can come into someone who's that close to the Father and in the Father's presence, then no matter how close we get to the Father, there's still that possibility that pride can still come in, because it says that light casts out all darkness, that sin cannot remain in the presence of the Father. But that one sin can still sit in the presence of the Father. So it's just like, continuing to remember who we are and who he is, where we've been, what he's done, and where we're going. So yeah, I just wanted to share that bit.
I like what you said, where he was so close to the Father, and because of looking at himself, he didn't see. You said I think you mentioned this yesterday too. He didn't see where he ended and and the Father began. So he started to take the esteem and the glory from the Father, place it on himself. And just to confirm that, we have Isaiah 14, where it says for verse 13 and 14, it says, "For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into the Shamayim, or heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of Elohim. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north." That's sanctuary language. "I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High." So that is what many leaders, shepherds, pastors have fallen under, that desire to be exalted rather than to serve. It says the Messiah did not come here to be served. He came here to serve. So how in the world that twist? I think that's why there's that. I think we talked about it yesterday. There's this element that's referred to as the mystery of iniquity, because there's really no real reason. It's really just dumb. It's like a mindless. It's not based off of wisdom at all. It's literally just based off of whatever you can conjure up. So it's like mysterious in the sense of how you can be that close and then just turn this direction where there's nothing. So that's what we're going through, that mystery of iniquity. I think it mentions it in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, the mystery of iniquity, because it's like it doesn't really have any real reason. We can talk about unrighteousness, what we entertain, all these things. It's still just a foolish. I think the best word that the scripture gives it is foolish or folly. It's just a fool's way to do, way to go. So even though I don't even like calling them Hasatan. I think I told Rick that, like that behold. Like I don't want to behold. I'm gonna use the English. Satan is, he's creating these plots in order to make us fall into the same traps, so he can extend what's in his heart and put it in yours. What's in his mind and put it in yours. So we gotta stay close. We have to cling, like what Emeka read in Deuteronomy 30 is pivotal. The last verse. Cling to Yahuah, because he is your life. He is your life. You know what I mean? We there's things in the past that we're ashamed of, and we shouldn't be. There's no fruit from anything that we did outside of him. So it makes no sense to linger over there, to even go over there for a little bit. It makes no sense, because look at what it didn't give us anything. Everything that we have is from when we were with Yahuah. The peace is from when we were with him. So praise Yah for sending his son. Praise Yah for his deliverance. Mike, go ahead. And then let's read some verses.
Seriously. Yo, I don't know who says 20 degrees where you're at, but it's 102 degrees here. So if y'all send, this is where you're coming to Florida. Nah. Dominique, bro, don't say Hasatan's easy, bro. These are good questions that actually bring edification, not just to you, but to a lot of us, even me right now, So these aren't bad questions. They're very good questions. I'm sure everybody has or still has. But anyways, for one, again, also remember, Yahuah had a redemptive plan since creation, since the very beginning. So even those who did chose evil, he still had mercy on before he informed us. He already had a redemptive plan to bring us back. So regardless of Hasatan or anything like that, his plan has always been good for us, not evil. The evil is only to show his goodness. But anyways, you asked about in the Shamayim, will we be we'll still know the difference between good and evil. So what would be the difference? The difference is this life right now. The whole point of this walk right now is that we are perfecting ourselves, and the only ones that are allowed into the kingdom are those who choose to walk in his will, which is why he allows them into his kingdom, because we already made the choice that, hey, I'm going to follow you forever. So if someone's partially walking his walk and still dabbling in sin, they're not choosing his will. He's not going to allow them into his kingdom because they know good and evil, and because if they're not choosing to serve me now, they're not going to serve me for eternity. So that's why we do have to be perfected, and that's what it's all about. So yeah, we'll know good and evil, but the thing is, he'll know that we all chose to walk and follow in good. And another thing, when you have a relationship with a woman, right? Let's say you get a woman, before you guys get married, you tell her, okay, I love you, whatever. Some of the requirements I have as a husband is I need you to cook for me every day, clean my house every day, and massage me every day, okay? You guys married, a year later, she stops doing all three of those. According to you, she has sinned against you because she has not fulfilled your will, right? It's the same thing with Yah. You didn't create that woman, though, and you didn't force her not to do those things. You gave her your will, and it's her free choice to choose. So it's the same concept. What's up, Jody? It's the same concept with us. He gave us his will, and we have free choice to choose it. Just because he knows we're going to choose evil, that doesn't choose evil. Doesn't mean that he created them evil or you know what I'm saying? Like, he created you just like you married the woman for a purpose because you loved her and you wanted relation with her. You married her because you wanted her with you, and you gave her your will. But if she doesn't keep that will, she still sinned against you. So he created us. He gave us his will. When you give somebody your will, your desires, because they have free choice, there's always an opportunity for them to go against them.
Speaking to the mic.
So it doesn't. So it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that you created your a bad wife. It just means that your wife decided not to follow your will. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I think that analogy was pretty clear. Is Abby okay? I just want to make sure she's not rubbing your feet and hey, Abby. 101 degrees. Yeesh.
Was Aaliyah just walking?
Yeah. All right, so we're still on Genesis chapter 1, verse 12. We're gonna go to verse 13. What we were doing, verse 6, right? All right, so let's go to 13 to 18. Now we're getting into a little bit of the calendar, a little bit to how he, created how we're supposed to tell time. So verse 13 to 18, somebody volunteering taking that on, reading it? I want to hear some more voices. What's going on, Rick? What are you doing? All right, Melissa. Don't feel bad because you want to read multiple times. It's good.
Okay. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning the third day. And Elohim said, let lights come to be in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs, appointed times, and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth. And it came to be so.
Up to verse 18.
And Elohim made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night, and the stars. And Elohim set them in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And Elohim saw that it was good.
Okay, so here's one of the things that comes up. At this point, let's all just come to one accord with what is the lesser light and what is the greater light, because there seems to be a confusion rising up about those things. All right, so he made great lights in the firmament. In the firmament, first of all, by the way. So he made two great lights in the firmament. The greater light, verse 16, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night and the stars. Okay. Can we all come to a consensus? The greater light is the sun, the lesser light is the moon, and the stars also. Is there a hand up that disagrees with that? Because I think it's good to kind of move forward on one mind. Again, don't hold back. All right, so we have the sun, moon, stars being created. Two lights. Oh, Melissa, you want to say something? Remember, cross-reference. If you have a verse, one verse at a time. Go ahead, sis.
No, I just had a question. Because I never really thought about the lesser light being anything other than the moon up until recently. And I've heard some people say that the lesser light could actually be the stars, and that the moon doesn't have its own light, but it reflects the light of the sun. So I would like some clarity on that from you guys. Like if there's any more scriptures that you can show me where the moon is a light unto its own and has its own light. Because when I do look outside, like the light does disappear from the moon, like several days out of the month. So I'm just trying to understand all this and figure it out myself.
Okay.
I think if you do a word search on moon and light, I think you'll see what the scriptures say pertaining to that. So I think if you do a search with moon and light, you'll see what it says.
Okay.
I think Brian, Rick after Brian? All right. Go ahead, Brian. Hold on, Brian. Let me unmute you. You see it?
You gotta unmute yourself, Brian.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that in verse 14, let me get my screen right here. It says in I'm reading from King James Version. God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the Shamayim to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years." And it's interesting that when Melissa read from her version, it said instead of the word seasons, it said appointed times. And when I looked at the word seasons from the King James Version, it confirms H4150 that is talking about his appointed feasts. So it's just really interesting that when we talk about his laws and his feasts and things, were before he created the creation, and they were going on in the Shamayim. Like he said, "Let your kingdom come, let your will be done on earth as it is in the Shamayim." And you see like a foreshadowing of the appointed feast in verse 14. Or like, I don't know what version you have, Melissa, but you even come on and said appointed times or something. So I thought that's fascinating to see that from the beginning. You see that foreshadowing of his Torah from the beginning. So that's all I wanted to say.
Right. Plus, I mean, I would assume, you have new moon, because we talk about Isaiah 66 with the new moon being every new moon. We we assemble before Yah. If it's from Shabbat to Shabbat and new moon to new moon, but specifically the new moon, it says that the tree of life will bear fruit, a different fruit every month. You know, so
Yeah.
let me let Rick go ahead, Rick.
All right, this is gonna kind of answer your question, Melissa. And I'm gonna go back to the verses again that we just read. I'm talking about myself starting 14, where it says, Elohim said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the Shamayim to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and appointed feast, and for the days and years." So each one of those lights that we see at night, the sun, of course, is for the day, the moon for the months, as well as the days. But the appointed feasts can also, we know that they have to be in particular seasons, and that's where the constellation or the stars come in. They all play a role in this clock or calendar, if you will, that we see. But the one key that I'll say here is where we look at 16, where it says Elohim. And I'm also going to add here, I'm looking into the Sefer because it uses the Aleph Tav in here, which I believe is very important in this creation, because you see the Eth, where I'll use that word, the Eth, or it's the Aleph Tav, if you will. To me, that's a covenant that he's making. So we know that he talks about covenants in other areas that we read, but it says Elohim made Eth, a covenant, 2 lights. And then he Eth again, the greater light to rule the day, which we know is the sun, and then another Eth, another covenant with the lesser light to rule the night, and then made the stars also. So he's pretty much clarified the 2 lights and then the stars also, but they all work together in conjunction with each other in the calendar that Yahuah has put in place for us to follow. And this is all set in the expanse of the Shamayim, in the firmament above, so that we can see these things happening to lead us through our days, our months, our seasons, and also our years. So they all play a role. And he's divided those 3 for a purpose, I think, to reveal to us the greater light, the lesser light, and then the stars or the constellation, which has to be there for the seasons. Because if you don't have that, you could be all over the calendar and not know when it begins. You could start it in winter, like some people do. The fall feast could fall in another season, if you will. So these constellations are very important of knowing when these appointed feasts are, which, again, that's what was referred here. So these are all covenants that Yahuah has made so that they are in their particular seasons. Night and day, and then other seasons as well. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, and verse 16. I'm gonna pose a question. Verse 16, it says, Elohim made 2 great lights. He didn't say, I made 1 great light and I made a reflector. I made one to reflect one of the great lights. So it's kind of like we're going at one point we're gonna have to say, do I believe what it says, or do I need to interpret this for Yah? 2 lights, not 1 and a reflector, 2 of them.
And the reason you can see it in the daytime is because it's still a light by itself, but the greater light overshadows that light of the moon while they're in the same sky at the same time.
Right. If the moon and the sun, if the sun reflects on the moon and the moon shines bright, if the sun and the moon is out at the same time, the moon should be shining brighter. But instead, it's transparent, as if it's waiting for the sun to set in order for that light to shine. So it's an interesting dynamic. And when you watch it, I've watched it, I've tracked it, and I've been always like, why does it look transparent during the day? If it's out there in the sun and is reflecting, it should be brighter since the light is closer. But when the light moves further away, then this starts to shine brighter. That's another interesting observation.
I want to say something about that.
What do you want to go ahead?
So, like, the moon should be shining brighter, and then as the sun starts to go down, then the moon should start going like getting less bright.
Right. If the sun is going down, the moon would be less bright.
Because I'm thinking about it, and then the moon, and then what people think is that the moon, at nighttime, the moon goes on the other side of the earth.
Right.
And that doesn't make sense because the earth is gonna be blocking the moon.
Right. Right. Yeah. I didn't tell him. I didn't even tell him that. But yeah. So all right. My sense of proudness is rising up. Go ahead, Melissa.
Yeah. Thank you. You know how when you're reading, sometimes you just totally gloss over something. So verse 16 really does clarify it. Thank you very much. One thing I do notice, and I'm not sure why this is the case in verse 14, but he never says that the lights are used for months. And I just don't know why. He says they're used for days and years and signs and appointed times, but why not months? Why doesn't he specify that?
In my perspective, when he says, the second time that he says days, I believe he's referring to a collective group of days, which would be months. Because if you look at verse, where are we? Verse 14? When we look at verse 14, it says, let there be lights in the firmament of Shamaim to divide the day from the night. That's a day. See, that's one day. But then he mentions days later on, a collective group of days. So I think he is referring to, when he says the night and the day, that's one day. Then he says for signs, for appointed times, and then he says days again. I believe is referring to the months, or the collective gathering of days equaling a month. And then he goes into the years, which is a collective gathering of months equaling the year. So I think that he does break it down. He's just not using our terminologies.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So let's move forward. Praise Yah. Where are we now? Verse 19 to 24. 19 to 24. I'll take 19 to 24. And it says, in the evening and the morning were the fourth day, Elohim said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that has life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of the Shamaim, or the heaven. And Elohim created great whales and every living creature that moves, which the water brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. Verse 22. And Elohim blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let fowl multiply in the earth. And the evening and the morning were the fifth day. And Elohim said, let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle, creeping thing, beast of the earth after his kind, and it was so. So one interesting thing I want to point out is that the water brought forth both water creatures and fowl, from what I'm seeing. It says, where are we? It says in verse 20, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creatures that has life, and fowl that may fly from above. And it's interesting because when I go to the beach, and I always see these birds, like they diving into the water, they live in the water. It's like different types of birds. It's not just like ducks and swans. It's like some other type of birds. It's not only seagulls, but they dive into the water, and some birds even swim through the water and eat fish. So this is an interesting thing that I've noticed, that the waters produce both water creatures and air creatures. Yes.
And also, there's some animals that aren't ducks that they sit on the water and then they dive underwater for like a few minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was interesting as we were observing these birds. We were like, "What in the world?" And it just makes sense that you know they were made from the water. They adapt. They live off the water. You know. So yeah. Anybody else see anything that stands out that they want to emphasize on? All right, Kefa and then Rod.
You know what I love about is verse 22. I'm going to verse 22. It says, "And Elohim blessed them, saying, Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters and the seas, and let the fowl multiply in the earth." So what I love about this passage is that Yahuah said, he blessed them. Basically, he said he gave them a commandment to be fruitful and multiply, right? So it was like, okay, you know what? You guys going to do what I asked you to do. I'm going to bless you, and you're going to follow my commandments. So he's speaking to the creatures. He blessed them. I give you a command, be fruitful and multiply. So what I love about that is that it is the same way he did with us as man. He blessed us. He gave us a command. We didn't follow through. But these animals, these creatures, they obey. You get what I'm saying to you? He blessed them and be fruitful and multiply. So that's very key to know that how creatures are more obedient than we are. They do what they're supposed to do. It's just a thought.
I think that's an excellent thought. That's an excellent thought. Bless them, obey the command. I like that connection. He does the same with us. He blesses us and then enables us to obey his commands. That's an excellent point. Go ahead, Rod.
Yeah, so I definitely just give me a little bit of time because I definitely want to park here for a minute concerning the animals. You know, Jai and I were talking earlier this week about, you know, the whole idea of evolution, you know, says there was a big bang, you know, and all of these things came from that big bang. You know, that's like your room being messed up and you throw a grenade in there and close the door and you open it and everything's in perfect order, you know, bed's made up, socks are put in the drawer, you know, after you blow up a grenade. So what I did was I did some research on just a few animals. If you give me a little bit of time, I want to see, and I know none of us believe in evolution, but just the idea, and if we can look at just a few animals and their makeup, how they can even think that, right? The sperm whale, it dives 7,000 feet and remains there for 2 hours. At that depth, over 600,000 pounds of pressure per square foot. How did that evolve? It would crush like a can. You know, that was created by Yah. They would explode before it made it to the bottom of the pool. So it's saying, okay, so what? The first few dove and exploded, and then by that time they were strong enough to withhold it. That's just one. Let's look at the platypus. This one blew my mind. Check this out. It has fur and lays eggs. It has a duck bill, but has webbed toes and has 4 feet and a beaver's tail. When it hunts, it closes its eyes and ears. When the babies are born, they have teeth, but when they age, the teeth fall out and then they have ridges on their bills. On the back of their feet, they have spurs with highly venomous poison. Only furred animals in the world with venom. Check this out. It hunts with something more sophisticated than radar. It can tell if a worm or a shrimp moves in the mud on the sea floor. We don't make anything in the military that sophisticated. But this came from the Big Bang. All right. Let me do this one. Bats and moths. Y'all good with this? Can I
No,
keep
it's
going?
good. It's good.
All right. Bats and moths. Bats use the sonar and go after moths, right? But moths have a system that can sense the sonar in the mid-flight from the bats and can start to drop that makes the bat miss. So the bats have radar and the moths have anti-radar, but it came from the Big Bang. It came from evolution, right? The owl has to turn its head completely around to look at you. His eyes are like cylinders, like cans, so he can't turn or move his eyes, but they're like binoculars. And if you move, they can see you over 10,000 feet away.
Wow.
You understand? So the idea, check this one out, the giraffe.
Come on.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
last
do the
one.
giraffe. Do the giraffe.
Yeah, the giraffe.
Giraffe has a heart that's 2 feet long, right?
Wow.
So when it's bent down and eating, and it can hear a predator, and he swings his head up 18 feet. Any other creature would pass out
Wow.
from lifting its head that far off, right? And the evolution say his long neck is so he can reach the leaves and the trees. His long neck and his long legs bent are that long so he can bend down to drink the water. Otherwise, he would be ill proportioned. So just that in itself, a woodpecker banging on a tree has buffers in his head to keep his brain from exploding from hitting his head. That evolved. Termites eat wood and they can digest it. They have bacteria in their stomach that's only in termites. No other creature that can dissolve it, the wood that it eats. But we have the idea that Yah didn't create things perfectly, that Yah didn't create things with purpose, that the Yah didn't create things to worship and praise him. You understand? Because if you have the whole idea of evolution, that means that we're just here by accident. We have no purpose. There's nothing in my life that would amount to anything. I might as well not be here. It creates every evil thought in your mind, racism, suicide, and the list goes on, and that's just a few. Just for the idea of evolution versus the creation and formation of Yah. So I just wanted to share that. I thought those things were interesting.
Praise Yah.
And we
Praise Yahuah for his creation.
Amen.
I wanted to add to the giraffe thing. When they bend down, there's a block on the blood supply. It blocks the blood supply so the blood won't rush to the head. Right. And then when they swing up, the blood supply is closed, and there's a sponge that slowly pushes the blood back into the brain and then opens up so there's no head rush. Like when we get up and then we get dizzy, they could do that with no head rush because there's something inside of their bodies that's created to prevent that, their heads from exploding from all the blood. 18 feet, that's crazy. Man.
18 feet.
Crazy. Yeah. That is a good element. I'm gonna go ahead, Kai.
So then they'll put their heads down, and then once they knock their heads up, then they'll just fall back down to the ground. And also, let's talk about the woodpecker. It bangs its head like 7 times per second. And then our brain wouldn't be able to take all that banging.
Exactly.
And they have a tongue that starts here and then it wraps around the brain.
Yeah.
So then it just comes out into the tree.
Right. That's good, Kai. I had that in my notes too.
Yeah. I'm gonna pass this on to you guys. I'm gonna have to head out to the group out here. Praise Yah. This is an excellent conversation. I know you guys probably finish it off, but I'm gonna have to go. Praise Yah. This is an excellent conversation. I'm gonna hand it off to the elders.
Give it off to Rod. He's a man in charge today. How do I come after that, Rod?
Oh, nah, man. Let's do this together. And whoever wants to read next.
I want to say something about that verse or that scripture too. But man, you made it hard for me to come after you with all that information. That's very good, though. I had a lot of stuff. That's interesting. The other thing with the giraffe, he uses that head to swing and use it as battle too. You know, and with the other males and stuff.
The tongue is like about 13 inches.
All right, let me go back to what I want to point out here again. I'm looking at the Aleph Tav or the S. Every single one of these animals that he created, before he created it, he had a covenant with them. So Elohim created, Aleph Tav is there. He created the sea monsters, the whales, and the Aleph Tav again, every living creature that moves, which is in the waters, brought forth abundantly after their kind. And then Aleph Tav again, every winged fowl after their kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. He places these all the way through. And these are covenants that he made not only with each kind of animal that he created, which I find very interesting. Whenever he creates a covenant in that way, he's made promises to them. And that goes against evolution too, just in that sense. If we truly believe Elohim created all these things, he made a covenant with them. And that's why they're still here today, from the very beginning of time until now. They haven't really evolved much that I'm aware of, but, you know, hey, I'm not a Darwinist.
Right.
But I just want to point that out because I love seeing the S or the Aleph Tavs throughout the scripture. That's why I got two different ones that I look at that have those in it, and it's very important because covenants are huge with Yahuah. But I'll go ahead and continue.
Hallelujah. We're going to continue from verse 23.
Wesley got his hand up too, by the way.
Wesley?
Oh,
go ahead, Wesley.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, just wanted to bring out, because we were talking about evolution. One of the things that always amazed me was that a human heart, the way it beats is actually a electronical pulse or electrical current in the heart that makes it pulse. And it's a debate because most people don't know where it comes from, but there is a debate that it's cells in your muscles that when they flex, it creates the pulse itself. And one of the things is, it just so happens, if you believe in evolution, that was random. So that to me blows away evolution, just to know that your body randomly created electrical pulse in the heart just to get your heart to beat.
That's good, Wesley, because even the fact that you know that when we sneeze, we close our eyes automatically. And the force, if your eyes were open, the force is strong enough to blow your eyes out of your socket.
That's right.
But that evolved. So really, there are countless things to point to obliterate that thought, that theory.
It's an amazing thing, man. How Yahuah can just be able to do all these things. How he knows all these things, that basically how we were created. Because he understood the body. He understood the way we function. So it's just to show you the wisdom and knowledge of Yahuah, how he thinks ahead of time before he does things. And that's a beautiful thing that Yahuah does, man. We have a great Yahuah, man.
I'm glad he makes my eyes close when I sneeze. That'd be disgusting.
I thought my eyes was open when I sneezed. Holy shit. Hallelujah.
Go ahead, Kev.
So we're going to start reading from verse 23. Yeah, we're only up to verse 23. Verse 23 to 27. Who wants to read? Go ahead, Brother Rick.
Let me unmute myself here. All right, 23 all the way to the end, I guess, or is it because we're only 31 verses here?
Yeah, actually, you know what? Go ahead. You're right. 31.
All right, 23. And the evening and the morning were the fifth day. And Elohim said, let the earth bring forth the living creatures after his kind, cattle and creepy things, the beast of the earth after his kind. And it was so. And Elohim made the beast of the earth after his kind, and the cattle after their kind, and the after that that creeps upon the earth after his kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth. So Elohim created man in his own image. In the image of Elohim created he him. Male and female created he them. And Elohim barak them, and Elohim said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moves upon the earth. And Elohim said, Behold, I have given you this every herb bearing seed which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree, and in the which is the fruit of the tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for food, and to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creeps upon the earth, wherein there is life. I have given every green herb for food, and it was good. And Elohim saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day.
Hallelujah. Thank you, Brother Rick. I know, Brother Rick, you probably have some things to say about this. You have anything to share?
Well, there's a lot here, but I'm going to make it real brief. Everything that he made a covenant with. Even the covenant that he made with man before he made us. And he gave us dominion over all these things. He gave us these things for food. I mean, how much more loving and caring is our Creator than to make us in their image? What does that mean? Our image. You know, that means there's more than one, right? That's not singular term. So, in my mind, I'm seeing that Aleph Tav in that. You know, that's Yahuah and Yahusha. You know, we're made in their image. You know, I guess you can also include the Ruach in that, but you know, he made covenants. Man, that's powerful, man. Everything that he made, every creature, every animal, every bird, every fish, and us. Covenant, 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 covenant. That's the most powerful thing that there is. When he makes a covenant, he won't go back against that covenant. So he's established it forever until death do us part, basically. So, or to the end of the age. So that's what I see in that, and that's powerful to me. I heed. Next.
On mute.
Who?
Okay, got it. I wasn't on mute, that's why.
Oh, you were yelling at your computer to unmute?
Anyway, pretty good. That was very good, Brother Rick. Dominique, you want to share something?
Yeah, just going back to what he was saying about how Yahuwah created man in our image. So I just wanted, he just said it just a while ago, but I just wanted to clarify, touch back on that. Who is the our? Because in the past I was thinking, is it God, Yahshua, and the Holy Spirit?
Well, in a sense,
who's the our?
Well, the Father and the Son. I would say it's the Father and the Son, Yahusha and Yahuwah. And we all know that, to me, when it comes to the Ruah, it's not a separate thing, because the Ruah comes from...
Oh, you got muted, Kefa. Somehow it muted you.
From the Father. Yeah. Yes, from Brother Dominique, is the Father and the Son. He said, let us create man in our own image, which is the Father and the Son.
Okay.
So the image is the Father and the Son that we look upon. But when it comes to the Ruah, it's not a separate entity, because the Father and the Son have the Ruah. So it's only one. Basically, those two makes one.
Wouldn't that be like what what some people refer to as the Trinity?
Yeah.
That's the difference, is what we're saying. I'll give you a brief understanding of my understanding of this. Yahuwah is Ruach, right? He's spirit. Okay?
I gotta get used to these Hebrew terms, man. I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, when Yahuwah spoke, out of his words are Yahusha, the Mashiach. Okay? Everything was created through him, for him, and by him. So you can't separate Yahuwah and Yahusha from the creation. They're there in the beginning. Everything was made as Yahuwah spoke. Yahusha, it went, Yahusha is the word. So everything was created through both of them. Now the Ruach they share because Yahusha said, I got to go away, so I'll ask the Father to send the Ruach in my name. Those that don't have my Ruach are not mine. So they share the same spirit, the same Ruach, because in essence, it's hard for us to comprehend this. Yahuwah is greater than Yahusha, but Yahusha is Yahuwah's words. He's the very essence of Yahuwah. So, he's the express image of Yahuwah. So if you look at it in those lights, they're one in that sense. But yet Yahusha is submissive to Yahuwah. He can only do what Yahuwah tells him to do, what he was sent to do, the will of the Father. So, but they're still one. They're a Qad. But yet the essence of them is kind of separate in a sense of their roles, if you will. So that I believe that's when he says, "Let us," they're saying Yahusha and Yahuwah, let us make man in our image. So I get that's the understanding I can kind of help you get to.
Yeah.
I hope that helps clarify a little bit.
A little bit. I can see I have to touch back on that some more to get more clarification. I got another question. Is there like a confusion between the Hebrew version and how? Because I've always gone by okay, this is God, this is Jesus Christ, and this is the Holy Spirit. I see you guys call it, you refer back to the Hebrew thing. So is there a confusion in referring to, I don't know if we can understand how I'm trying to say it, but is there some kind of confusion to why you guys stick to the Hebrew version?
Well, I can give you the answer to that if you like.
Yeah, I like the answer.
This is my version of this. I don't know if everybody will agree with this,
Yeah.
but this is how I see it. I believe the reason that I went back to the original, I used to walk in the Christianity the way that most do.
Right.
My belief is that those names have been changed. They're not the names that were written.
Right.
And the Lord, if you want to say that as a name for God, is not. Okay. That name, Lord, goes back to another. There's some people that have a little different version of that, but there was an entity that Elijah came against, the prophets of Baal. Well, that name Baal actually translates as the Lord, as a name. So I believe they took out the name of Yahuwah and replaced it with the Lord as part of a deception. Hasatan deceived the whole world, If it's possible, even the very elect would be deceived by it. The same way with the name of the Messiah. There's only one name given in the Shamayim by which we're to be saved. He came in his Father's name. Well, that name, Jesus, if you will, doesn't translate or transliterate back to the original name that was written there. So, and there's a declaration when you say Yahusha, you're actually saying it's Yahuwah that saves you. So there's something more deep when you look at the Hebrew words or names when you say them. The same way with the Ruach. The Ruach HaKodesh it means the spirit that's set apart or sets you apart unto Yahuwah. It's the spirit of Yahuwah and Yahusha. Where my belief here is that the Holy Spirit is a different type of spirit, in my opinion. But that's where I see why I go back to these terms as Hebrew terms. So I'm more clear about what I'm saying, who I'm saying them to. So there's no confusion when I voice it because I'm speaking directly to who I know it to be now, according to the names that were written.
Okay, so, I got you. I got you there. Because I'm all for getting the real deal. Like I don't want to be deceived. You know what I'm saying? So in other words, because I used to read what was it, New King James Version. I used to read that. So is there deceit in that version? Like I guess what is a good version to get the real facts? You know what I'm saying?
There's a lot of different scriptures out here that have restored the names. You know, the ISR, Hallelujah Scriptures is one, the Sefer, the Besora of Yahusha. These are all good versions that you can get that have the real names. Do I think that they're deceptive with the King James and all the other translations? Yeah, because they changed the name. They removed the names that were supposed to be in there, in my opinion. That breaks Deuteronomy and Revelation where it says don't add or take away.
Wow. That's deep. That's deep.
Brother Dominique, I thank you so much, man. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
We got to move forward now. Melissa, you want something to share?
I'm sorry about that, guys.
No, that's all right. That's all right. That's good. I appreciate that.
Go ahead, Melissa. Can you unmute? No? Yeah.
Yeah, just to respond to Dominique, and then I have my question. If you look at Jeremiah 8:8, it says, "How do you say we are wise, and the Torah is of Yahuah is with us? But look, the false pen of the scribe has worked falsehood." So it was prophesied that his word would be tainted, and that the scribes would end up trying to modify and change things. So I like Jeremiah 8:8 because that deception, we knew it was coming, and so there's another scripture where it says that he conceals a matter, but then kings search it out. So no matter which Bible version you decide to go to, you're still going to have to search and be led by the Ruach into his word, into knowing what he is wanting to teach you and how to learn. I personally use the ISR. I like it well enough, but there are some discrepancies that I find. And that actually leads me to my question. In Genesis 1, verse 26, I was looking at the Hebrew, and in that verse, the pluralities don't exist in the Hebrew. The us, the our, and the our likeness.
Okay.
So is that a discrepancy that was added? Because I don't see, I looked at each of those words. It's Strong's 1823, Strong's 6213, and then, and actually that's all it kind of says in this one. Oh, and Strong 6754. And even though it has it in the interlinear where it'll say our, us, and our, when you look at those actual Strong numbers, there's no plurality there. So I was just curious, is this where there was maybe a mistranslation?
Got that, Brother Rick?
I'm actually looking at these words that she's referencing to. Yeah, very well could be. That's a good point to look into. Let me go into these a little bit and see where you're looking at. I'm looking at this now. Let's see. I'll look at let us make. And now they translate that at Naashe. Naashe, I believe is how you pronounce that word. It's used 33 times, and they always use it. Let us, we will do. That's how it's always translated in these translations. But now, when you get, I would like to see. Let me go into the interlinear. See how it reads. It's the same. So that word "let us make" it also says "do make." So you're right; it doesn't have that in that Strong's number or that word there that they're using. I don't know. That's interesting. I'll have to study that out a little bit more to see.
Yeah.
You're right. It does have that where it doesn't have the us. And Jadiel's got the answer for us. He's got his hand up.
I didn't even see him there.
Oh, go ahead, Jadiel.
I couldn't leave you guys. So what we learned in Proverbs chapter 8, it does reference that the Father and Son were present at creation. But one of the major things that I noticed about the humility of Messiah is that even though he was used in creation, when you look at the wording in Proverbs, Proverbs 8, verse 22 to 35, it says, then I was by him, referring to Yahusha being by the Father. He says, then I was by him when he started his work. So even in that essence, you see that Yahusha is giving all the esteem to the Father, even though the Father is using him. So even though there's a singularity, it is a singularity. Yahuwah is doing these things through the Son. But the esteem goes to Yahuwah. Even in Proverbs 8, the one who was brought forth is giving all the esteem to Yahuwah. So I agree. I've always said that there's always a singularity when he's referring to Yahuwah. He's never including anyone else. It's Yahuwah that includes the Son and then includes us as well. So, but as far as identity and who is doing it, it always takes us back to the Father by himself.
Hallelujah.
So that basically says that even Yahusha can't do anything in his own. It's always the Father doing it through him, right? So I guess it takes us back to that singular again. Maybe that's why we don't see the plurality in the Hebrew side, but the English puts that in there. Because you got the concept of us, but yet it's still Yahuwah doing everything.
Yeah.
Through Yahusha. So
I want to share something in verse 26 before we close in. Verse 26. Now, actually, verse 25. It says, "And Elohim made the beasts of the earth and his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything creeping up upon the earth after his kind. And Elohim saw that it was good." So you see right there the importance to me. What I see from this is the importance of how Yahuwah makes sure that how he keeps things along according to his kind. Right, so it shows right there the importance of how he doesn't like mixing between things. How everything is made according to his kind. So in the Torah speaks about how we cannot be mixing certain things. So when it comes back to in verse 26, and Elohim said, "Let us make man in our own image, after our own likeness, and let them make dominion over the fish and the seed of the earth." So you see right there, Yahuwah made the animals after his own kind, which is the cattle, and then you look at man. He makes man. Basically, he created us after his kind, after him. So when it comes to us as man, we must make sure that we walk according to the Ruah, according to the righteousness of Yahuwah, so that we can multiply in what Yahusha has told us to be, to live according to the way, the image that he created us. So now when it comes to us, we must multiply the righteousness of the own kind of our seed, so that we can multiply the righteousness of Yahuwah, to make sure the difference between righteousness and wickedness. Righteousness according to his kind, wickedness according to his kind. But Yahuwah is calling us to walk according to his image of righteousness, which is the seed that he calls us to be a seed of righteousness through Yahushua HaMashiach, who is the seed, and we follow the imitation of Yahusha after his own kind. If that makes sense. That makes sense. Does that make sense?
That was 25 you were reading, right?
Yeah, 26 and 27. 25 and 26.
You know what I find interesting here? There is no his in any of this in the interlinear. So it doesn't really say his after his kind. That I zeroed in on that as you kept saying his kind. I was thinking, okay, why does he use his? But I don't even see that used in here. According to its kind.
It's kind.
I see used.
You said his kind.
It's kind. It's kind. ITS. It's kind.
Yeah, he didn't say his. He said its.
But my scripture does say his.
It does?
Yes. When he was reading it, it says that creeps upon the earth after his kind.
It's actually his kind. You're right. Let's see.
And I thought that's what you said, but yeah, it doesn't say his in the actual.
You're right. You're right. It's, actually, I'm saying his. Actually, it's his kind.
Okay, I got the ISR says its, and the restored name says 26,
25.
25 and 26, it says
his con.
It says his in the restored names, King James.
Interesting. That goes to answer your question, Dominique. Has something changed or added? Yes, even in these kind of versions. That's why we got to study this stuff out. That's what makes it exciting about this walk, is digging in and breaking stuff apart to see what was really there.
It's crazy. Just that little bit of change, you know.
It makes all the difference. That's why he says don't add a dot or a tittle. A comma or a period could change the whole frequency or the flow of the story or what he's trying to say. That's how important it is not to add or take away anything.
Hallelujah. Anybody else want to share anything else? Melissa? And I said we're going to close it down after this right here.
That means you get the final word, Melissa, and I'll help you unmute. There you go.
Thank you. Well, I had a question about verse 27. Especially in the times that we're living in, it's just making my stomach turn with how people are taking the Father's character in vain and portraying him as male and female, like all over the place because of the transgender society that we're living in. So verse 27 is like a verse that they can use to perpetrate this idea. And it says, and Elohim created the man in his image. In the image of Elohim, he created him, male and female, he created them. So we know that he did not create Eve at this point because he has to take the rib out of Adam, like further in scripture. So at this point, this is just the man that he's created, both male and female. And then he's told this one man to be fruitful and increase and fill the earth and subdue it. But how is this man supposed to increase the earth and subdue it if he has yet to have his female counterpart? Like, I know there are some species that can procreate by themselves. Like, I don't know. It's just, there's a lot here, and I don't really know what to think about it, and I don't know what to say about it when I come across people. So if you guys have any input, I'd really like some.
Yeah, I think in this verse, he's talking about what he created, and then in chapter 2 he goes back and talks about how he did it. So it's not that he's talking just to man at this time. He's talking about that he created them both. And then later he goes into how he took the woman out of the man's rib. So it's like an overview, and then he goes back and gives specific details in chapter 2.
Yeah,
that's one view.
Okay.
What's the other view, Rick?
What's the other view?
Another view out there.
Okay.
That he actually did create another.
It's one that you hold dear to, Brother Rick?
No, hey, I can't say I hold dear to anything.
Right.
But when I looked into this, there's actually a whole nother view about this, that he actually did create another female with Adam before Eve. And that a lot of people believe that they call this the serpent, Leviathan, the one that deceived them as she came back, that she didn't want to submit to Adam and him being over her. And there she left and went away, and then that's when he was, Yahuah seen him kind of lonely, and he made a helpmate later for that. Then she came back and tempted him. And some believe that that was like the fornication, the forbidden fruit that took place there, you know? So that's a whole nother viewpoint, but there's another possibility out there.
I like that some say.
Hey, I
like that.
That's another topic.
Where's that scripture? Some say. Where?
Don't tell me it's Genesis chapter 1 now.
It sounds like some of those Jewish fables we're told to stay away from.
Yeah, Jadiel's about to shoot that with a Gatling gun. Go ahead, Ja. He's about to make Swiss cheese out of it.
Hey, all I'm doing is bringing out. There's other people's beliefs out there.
Get him, Ja.
All right, shoot it down. So, it didn't say that Adam was lonely. It says that he was alone, and God said, "It is not good for man to be alone." Adam didn't ask anything. What he did notice was that he didn't have one. So if he had one before, he wouldn't say that I didn't have one. You see what I'm saying? He would say that one that I had gone now. But instead, he noticed that he never had a female counterpart to himself. That's one thing. I don't see that it says that he was lonely. It says that he was alone, and God said it's not good for man to be alone. He didn't say that man was lonely. You know. So I just wanted to point out those specifics so that way you can see what God said is, and this happens multiple times where he gives you a short clip narration, it does just a revelation, and then it goes back and dissects everything that just happened, afterwards. So I think that's when you look at the details, it doesn't leave room for another woman somewhere in the world with an idea.
Yeah, and to that point, it's interesting how when Yah saw that man, it was not good for man to be alone, it was after he named the animals and they had their partners. It was like, okay, something's not right here. Let's fix this. But we'll continue to look at that, Rick.
I had to bring that controversy out, so you guys can shoot at it.
Final conclusion. Final conclusion, brothers and sisters. All right, is that Yahuah is a covenant-keeping Yahuah. That everything that he created is good. All right, everything that he created is all good. So let us remember, for us to be a part of his covenant, we must walk in his presence. We must walk according to his word, because his word is truth and his word is good. So let us walk in his covenant, because he's a covenant-keeping Yahuah. Hallelujah. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you. May your name be blessed forevermore, for you are truly good. You are Yahuah that keeps covenant, for your word is truth and your word is good, and everything that you created is good. As I mentioned in the book of Genesis chapter 1, for you are the beginning, Father, of all things. May your name be blessed forevermore, Yahuah. We thank you so much for this time of fellowship and conversation of your word. May it continue to heal us as we strive to be just like you, your son, in this journey. So we ask, Father, that you bless this assembly. You bless our families. We thank you, Father. Give us wisdom, more wisdom according to your word, from your Ruah, from the Shamayim that you have given us to be a part of your kingdom. So whatever it is that we need to know, Father Yah, any mystery, any secret, you bring it forth to us in your Ruah. Thank you once again, Yahuah. We love you. In Yahusha. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.